the council this evening. We have one motion to consider. Please be aware that there has been a proposed change to the motion which has been circulated in advance to support some informed decision making. But I'm going to hand over to Councillor Davis now to fill us in of the details of the motion, please.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt you. We need to follow the agenda and do apologies, declarations of interest, and public
I do beg your pardon.
Okay.
I do beg your pardon. I've got the wrong piece of paper and it hasn't got all of that stuff on there. Okay. Let me find that. Let me find the right notes.
So you're looking for the agenda.
Yeah. It's not an auspicious start. I feel myself appearing on YouTube any day.
I think we've all got that anxiety now.
I can't find the agenda.
It's if you haven't got it in your emails, it is on our website.
Okay. Does anybody have a copy to hand that they can quickly email me?
Ian, can you do that?
I'll go and do it now.
Thank you. The first matter, Mr. Chair, is apologies for absence.
Okay, well, let's start with that then while we're waiting then. Are there any apologies for absence, please?
I have received no apologies, Mr. Chair. If in a moment when you get your agenda, you can ask and do the register of attendance as we do normally at each meeting, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't get in before.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Okay. I've got the agenda in front of me now. Okay. So welcome everybody. So I'll start off with a roll call then. If you could all just say yes or no. Councillor Bergin.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Present, and I'm declaring an interest as both a town councillor, member of Eden District Council for the same ward, and also that I'm also a member of the Eden District Council Planning Committee.
Thank you. Councillor S. Clark.
He's got a dispensation for virtual meetings, Councillor Lawson.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Yes, no declarations of interest.
Thank you. Councillor Donald. You're on mute, Paul.
Yes, I'm present.
Okay. Any declarations?
No declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Fallows.
Yeah, present. No declaration of interest.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Present. No declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Present. And since we're doing them, no declarations of interest.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon. No. Councillor Nance.
Present. No declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd. That's Charlie.
Trustee Shepherd. Present. No declarations of interest.
Thank you. Councillor M. Shepherd.
Present. No declaration of interest.
Thank you. And Councillor Snell.
Present. No declarations of interest.
Okay. Just for the purposes of record, I will also declare that I am a member of Eden District Council. I'm not expecting to be voting, but I'll just put that up front. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So can I ask before we start the meeting that you all mute your microphones unless you're talking, just to avoid any background noise. And just a reminder that we need to adhere to the Council's Code of Conduct, General Standing Orders and Meeting Etiquette Guidance to support me as I manage the meeting. Only unmute when you've been invited to speak. Please speak clearly and look at the camera as often as you can, and make sure your phones are on silent. And as with all of these meetings, please be aware that there may be a time lag. So if you're responding or talking, please be aware of that and just allow a little bit of extra time just to make sure that you're not talking over each other. Can I ask councillors please to introduce themselves before they raise a point or speak, And I'm going to ask officers if any members wish to speak on an item. Can you please also introduce the member who wishes to speak? Please respond to me when I ask you to, and be aware that some attendees may be joined via phone, which is why you can't see them on the screen, but hopefully everybody's got their name against their little square on the screen, so you should be able to see. So we've done apologies for absence, and we've done declarations of interest as part of the registration process. So item 3 is public participation, which allows us a period of up to 15 minutes for members of the public to ask any questions or submit any comments. Have we had any questions submitted before the meeting?
Councillor Chair, no, we haven't, although we had an email in from a member of the public which has been circulated to all members of the Town Council which supported the motion. County Councillor Bell had asked to speak at tonight's meeting, but she doesn't appear to be present at this moment in time.
She has sent me her apologies. She was having trouble joining.
Yes, she's just joining now, Councillor Lawson.
Okay.
So I have no request from the members of the public to speak at this moment in time. And the only request I've received prior to the meeting is a request from Councillor Bell to make representation. Okay.
Do we do that now? Or?
We do that now, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Bell, are you able to speak now? Are you fully joined the meeting? You are on mute.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been struggling to get in, and I'm really sorry I'm late. Forgive me, is this the right time to speak?
It is, yeah. If you can speak now, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for the chance to speak. And I'd like to share the views of some of my residents that have been in touch. And I'd like to share their views about your motion tonight. They, like me, aspire to us having a town council where cooperative partnership working is the norm. A council which joins in conversations and takes informed decisions. And they feel so passionate about that because when we have unitary, that really strong cooperative voice is going to be vitally important, more important than it is now, and it's already very important. They feel the motion that you are about to debate tonight exhibits none of those behaviours. Because in September, the Town Council turned down an opportunity to join the Breeder House steering group. And you'll remember that that was an absolutely no obligation invitation and a chance to join that wider discussion, which, okay, is about the present and the here and now, but also looking to the future. So the Town Council hasn't been part of that conversation, hasn't been party to all the detailed information, and it hasn't been in the room when that project has moved forward. So the residents were asking, how can it be that the Town Council can debate a motion tonight without understanding all of those background details and all of the sense of hope and direction for the future? It's not for me to be expressing a view on Breeder House because, like you, I haven't been part of those detailed discussions. But what I do know is that as councillors, all of you, no matter what council you are a councillor for, we would be failing in our duty if, when unitary comes, we're not fighting for a significant local government building in Penrith or in Eden. And that new council is going to want a building that offers efficient office space and is an environmentally friendly building, which can be cheaply run. So I'm hoping that tonight you might actually decide to join in the discussion, to join in that one public estate conversation and influence things from within the group rather than from outside. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. We do have a little bit of time left. Are there any members of the public that have joined that would like to say a few words before we move on to the motion itself? No, I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, so in that case, we move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the motion itself from Councillor Davis. The motion is to consider the following motion from Councillor Davis, which has been seconded by Councillor Shepherd. I'll hand over to Councillor Davis now to introduce the motion.
Thank you, Chair. The motion put forward this evening before you with the proposed amendments to tweak the motion is as a result of the planning applications that have been put forward by Eden District Council and the proposal to convert the Vereda House into a new headquarters for the council. As has been pointed out, there has been discussions ongoing where various groups have been invited to be part of that, and the Town Council has previously resolved not to be part of that conversation. So the motion that is put forward for you this evening, does the Chair want me to read the current motion or the proposed alterations?
Can I interject, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
For the benefit of the late joiners, can we inform you, please, that Councillor Davis is going to move a reworded version of his original motion. So can I suggest, so that our attendees who haven't seen the first and second motion, if you perhaps just read out the second motion at this point in time, because it might confuse everybody. Mr. Chair, do you think that's a sensible approach?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's the best under the circumstances, so everybody knows what we're talking about.
So once the second motion has been read out by Councillor Davis, Councillor Shepherd has to confirm, Councillor Davis has to confirm he wants to move that motion, and Councillor Shepherd has to agree and support the motion so that it can be open for debate, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Right. This motion is put before Penrith Town Council to call on Eden District Council to put plans for the redevelopment of Vereda House on hold until the outcome of the local government reorganisation in Cumbria is completed and the future of Eden District Council is established and concluded. There are several proposals for central government to consider, and potentially the very existence of Eden Council as a district authority is at threat, and a new council covering a wider area may be established, drastically changing the local authority framework in Eden and the requirements for assets such as Vereda House in Penrith. Eden Council is acting irresponsibly in pushing forward the Vereda House single site plans when the future of the council is unknown. With the challenging and changing environment created by COVID-19 that will have a long-term impact on how organisations operate in the future, with more people working remotely, this proposal shows a total lack of thought about the needs of the community during a time of significant and emotional hardship. Eden District Council is moving to spend vast amounts of public money to create office space that may well be surplus to the requirements. By the spend of public money on the redevelopment of a building that may only be used by Eden Council for a very short period, if at all, by the council. Councils are required to demonstrate value for money. This proposal is short-sighted and not value for money. Penrith Town Council calls on Eden District Council to put all plans for Vereda House on hold until the outcome of Eden District Council's future as part of a local government reorganisation is established, with the needs for physical office space are known for the delivery of local government after the completion of local government reorganisation in Cumbria. And we ask that no further public money be spent on Vereda House project beyond making the site safe. I propose this motion and put it to members.
Okay. Councillor Shepherd, can you confirm that you are seconding the motion?
I can confirm I'm seconding the motion.
Thank
There
you
are
very
votes
much.
as read.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so We now have a time for any questions or comments. Have we had any received in advance of the meeting before I get to doing a round?
Mr. Chair, we haven't had any questions in advance.
You're on mute, I think, Viv. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Thank you. Sorry about that. There's a slight lag. Members, we haven't had any questions in advance of the meeting. As we do normally, Mr. Chair, I think it appropriate to go around and ask each member if they would like to comment, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's fine. I'm hoping everybody can still hear me okay. I'm getting a message saying my internet connection's unstable, but I can still see you all, so hopefully we'll carry on all right. Okay, so let's go round then, starting with Councillor Bergin. Did you have any comments or questions about the motion?
Beg your pardon. Yes, I've been told that I was unstable as well, which is, I presume I'm all right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I sort of take on board what Councillor Bell has said, and again, I don't know whether we're just going through the motions of it. I don't know how effective it would be, assuming that it would be passed, and I'm not sure how far down the line the local government reorganisation is. I think a short time ago we said it might be 21, 22, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be much further down the line than that. So I do feel that quite possibly I don't know how much notice they would take of it if we did pass it. I'm not sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bergin. Councillor Margaret Clark, did you wish to say anything, or are you going to?
Unfortunately, I'm in an invidious position here, so I'll refrain from comment.
Thank you, Margaret. Councillor Davis, did you have anything else to? Oh no, sorry, no. Moving on. Councillor Donald, anything for you?
My observations really, as I feel quite torn in a way, and I feel that because of the logic of looking back at the decision in September that we said that we would not become a member of the steering group. I looked back and saw that from the meeting in September, there was just an oral report. So there isn't a lot to really look at. I can't remember too much, but we did agree to remain as an interested observer of the project. And in that respect, it feels as though we kind of gave up any sense of ownership of what might happen to the building and allowed decision making to be kept by another group. But at the same time, I can see that there are considerations about the COVID legacy and whether or not buildings might be used in the same way, and that it might be a bit premature. I find it quite hard to. I don't think there's been a decision where I feel kind of like quite so torn on. But I still maintain that if I was looking at things quite impartially, does the fact that we said we wouldn't become a member and we have not been part of any of those decisions allow us to then, I mean, well, obviously we can't stop anything. We can only make a comment, even by tonight's meeting. That's all that can happen. But it kind of feels like jumping ahead of ourselves somewhat when we had an opportunity to be part of something previously. And as I say, I can't remember exactly what the reasons were why we didn't join that group, but we did say that we wouldn't join it and attend no further meetings. I can't really say much more than that. I think everything else has been said.
Thank you, Councillor Donald. Councillor Fallows.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd certainly echo the point Councillor Donald's made there about being uncomfortable that we've had opportunities to be involved in having a say in this process and chosen not to. So the timing of now saying this, I think guess I can understand how people might feel with what's expressed, with the strength of feeling that's been expressed in the motion and the support that it's had from some people. Certainly I've received emails from people who've read the proposal in the Herald and contacted me in support of the motion and wanting to know if I support it. So clearly there's a strength of feeling about it, but actually with the way, you know, there are processes for these things, and we've had an opportunity and we haven't been involved in that. And actually, you know, well, Councillor Neggs has obviously sent out a amendment, which, to be honest, if I was to go into detail, that covers most of the specific wording that I have issue with. But I mean, I would definitely have to say that I really think that how this what is being proposed for us to resolve to say to the district council isn't an appropriate way to try and conduct business between us and them, and accusing them of not having regard for this or that. You know, that kind of thing can be applied to anything. I don't know the full detail behind the Vereda House. I had a quick look into it on top of it. I'd note that a few weeks ago there was something in the paper about government funding that's been put forward, what, £800,000 or something, towards making it zero carbon. There could well be options, regardless of whether we became a unitary authority with it. So to demand that that the district council put it on hold until the decision's made there seems very arbitrary to come from us who haven't been part of that process. I had come to this meeting, well, having read those proposals, certainly prepared in theory to support the proposed amendments to it, but I do need to be convinced that what the urgency and the timing is of this, rather than just what seems to just basically be an attack on the district council. But obviously, I mean, I guess if I have a question about it, and for Councillor Davis, and it's just a genuine question, it's what is it that made the timing of this, that we're having the extraordinary meeting now, rather than us having put something forward earlier, or what the urgency is, because I don't know about the timetables of the decisions they're making, that getting involved in putting our views to the district council wouldn't come later. Anyway,
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, yeah. Mr. Chair. Councillor Davis can address that question in his summing up, if that's okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fallows. Councillor Hawkins.
I would echo very much what I have heard Councillor Donnell and Councillor Fallows saying. I appreciate that there is a role for Penrith Town Council to be part of the democracy of the town and to be a platform for views and sharing views. I don't have any further questions, and just like to thank everybody for attending tonight and thinking about the matter.
Thank you. I see that Councillor Kenyon has joined us. Would you like to add anything, Ron?
No, sorry about that. It's just about timing over. It was 6 o'clock. Stupid time. I haven't really heard anything of what's been said, and I have no idea behind what the proposal is and whatever. My feeling is that whether we should have been involved earlier in all these discussions and whatever. It's interesting over time. I've seen how Valida House has developed. Remember when the tax office was in above Burton's, and then it moved to Valida House, and then it was actually now maybe 10 years ago. There's a Cumbria County Council forum discussing moving, looking for somewhere for the NHS to have their place, and they're talking about actually expanding the forum and all sorts of other things. And I said, what about Valida House? And they just wasn't on their radar. So anyway, where that meeting and led on to NHS moving into there. The feeling is it's probably bad timing, I suppose, overall. We've got the Unitary Authority, which probably is lurking in the background there, will happen or could happen, whatever. Even if it does happen, we don't suddenly lose Eden District Council. We don't suddenly lose Cumbria County Council. We still need these bodies to start run whatever they are running at the moment. Obviously, the big objective of Unitary Authority is to save cost and bring things together. But you're never going to get rid of one or the other. You're still going to have, let's say, 80–70% of whatever is functioning on these for these various bodies. So you still need to have entities, very much so in the areas of we're looking into sort of future with the Unitary Authority area with regards an Eden area, Carlisle area, West Cumbria, Copeland, whatever, South Lakes, Barrow. So you're going to have areas, we're going to need to have entities in these particular areas which are going to have to run the various segments of Cumbria County Council or whatever it's going to be called or whatever. So if we do go down that route, then we're going to have to need entities. I very much admire the idea of combining, getting rid of Mansion House and moving to somewhere nearer to the town hall. Against that, we've now had a year of COVID and Zoom meetings and all that lot, which is sort of making the idea of gathering in one place less necessary than it was in the future. So within a bit of a funny area, Valida House is I've seen it, walk past it many times, and it's very close to the town hall, and I suppose it's come up at this time. If they come up in 2 years' time, it might have been 2 or 3 years' time, it would have been a better time, but we are where we are at the moment, and I suppose in a way that the chance came up to take it. Whether we want to develop it as much as we are, as is proposed, is questionable. Whether it's like what is the future is again, I haven't looked too much into it, but is the idea is to get rid of the town hall as well as Mansion House, or is it the idea is to keep town hall and Mansion House and town hall and Valida House together? I would have thought at the moment Valida House is quite a big chunky area, chunky sort of office block, and that and town hall might be as it is, with maybe odd arrangements and whatever, would be enough to sort of keep things going as they are at the moment. I haven't really looked into the facts and all that sort of thing as regards that. I think in the moment I'm quite I feel that we should, the chances come up at the time, and Eden District Council has taken on the Valida House. Whether they should be spending as much money and developing it, I don't know, but I think towards reaching one point, the Unitary Authority will look towards presumably cutting on staff costs, staff areas and whatever in the future. But I think there's still going to be a need for quite a substantial admin area, which whether town council, the town hall and Reader House is going to be adequate. Well, that should be more than adequate for that. I'm not sure whether we should be. The town, English Council looked into this themselves. They seem to have their ways. They're looking at it very closely, and obviously the big cost to spend on that. I'm sort of opposing.
Councillor Kenyon, sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask you to sum up, because we've got a lot of people to get through, and
yeah,
I'm conscious we're running out of time.
Same, Abby. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Councillor Jackson, I do apologise. I jumped over you in the list.
I'll forgive you. I'll forgive you. I mean, right. So, cards on the table. This time last week, I was of a similar opinion to that espoused by this motion. We discussed it in the planning committee, and on the face of it, it didn't make sense for an organisation that may not belong for this world to be seeking new offices. However, on closer inspection, after talking to a few people, I'm inclined to think really the opposite is true. So first, it must be said that any organisation must operate as though it will continue to exist right up until the moment it knows otherwise. Unitary authorities have been on the agenda longer than I've been in local government, which is about 6 years now. So it could be another 6 years, it could be less, it could be more, but Eden District Council must seek value for taxpayers' money and deliver its services right up until the moment when it does cease to exist, right up until that moment of any hypothetical at this moment end. So this leads to an important second point that sets me at odds with the notion that this doesn't represent value for money. It's fairly well known that the Town Hall and Mansion House are not at all economical to run. Any modern building would run rings around them in inefficiency ratings, and the fact that Vereda House is being refurbished to Passive House standards means we're talking about top-level efficiency with low-level running costs. It will even make its own electricity. It's also important to consider that the inefficiency incumbent in one organisation being split over two complexes. There's unnecessary duplication over Mansion House and the Town Hall. And if that wasn't enough, Vereda House has a space to accommodate outlets for other organisations. I think it was quoted in the press today that other organisations are in discussions with EDC, and an estimated value to the district council of £30,000 income a year, which is not to be sniffed at. So if put side by side, the existing is blown out of the water by the proposed in terms of value for taxpayers' money. So the only realm this could be questioned on is the initial outlay, as I'm sure I've seen quotes in the, well, I'm not sure, but 7 figures, low 7 figures. We'll never know because we don't get to see the pink papers. We haven't been in the room, we haven't been in the discussions. But I'm led to believe that that's actually the original budget put aside is being drastically underspent. The purchase and refurb costs are considerably less than people believe. And then combine this with the fact that, as Councillor Fallows alluded to before, because of the green credentials of this proposed building, there's a government grant of £856,000, which isn't Penrith or Eden's taxpayers' money. That's I don't want to call it free money, but it's money that we don't have to find. It's new money that makes this much more reachable. Also, when I was a district councillor a couple of years ago, and the last administration was trying to sort out one site, Mansion House, and the sale of that was mooted, and that's a high figure as well. I think it was high 6 figures. Again, we don't have the pink papers, but so I'll assume that there is a sale of Mansion House proposed at some point, and suddenly the capital outlay is not only looking negligible, there might not be that much at all. So that leads me to, well, why do this now if this council is going to cease to exist? Well, it's to protect the existence of public-facing local government in Penrith. Any new organisation, any new unitary authority is going to take one look at the Town Hall and Mansion House and think, these are inefficient, drafty places that are going to take a lot of money to refurbish. They're going to take one look at them and say, no, thank you, and pull out of Penrith. A new, modern, efficient building does the exact opposite. It could well be, and I think it will be, the deciding factor in keeping a new council in touch with the people of Penrith. So to briefly summarise, while this motion seeks to protect taxpayers' money. I think instead it serves to waste more of it, and indefinitely. While the intention is to question the timing, its conclusion is gravely in error, as action must be taken before the reorganisation, not after, when it will be too late to protect Penrith residents' access to council services. The last thing any of us want is for residents decades from now to question why the Unitary Authority does not have offices in Penrith. So really, it isn't EDC who are being short-sighted. In fact, they're attempting to look after residents long after their own existence. I think it's this motion which is short-sighted. And that pretty much brings to the end what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Naggs, you're next.
I mean, I knew what I was going to say half an hour ago, and I've listened to people and I've heard some interesting points. I've also been contacted by residents who are upset about this. And I think, you know, we have a right to express that. But there again, we're not accountable for this decision and can't be held accountable for this decision. So since we were invited onto the group and we haven't been on the group, that's an interesting point, which I'd forgotten about. So I think we gave up our entitlement to have that discussion in that way. I do know, because I checked the facts, that it's just under 2 million that the underspend on capital projects came in last year. So the Eden District Council have had a massive underspend. I don't know how much the total bill would be for refurbishment, but it would go towards that. One of my main problems with this particular motion, and I want to thank Councillor Davies for trying to adjust the language so that it's been a lot more palatable, and I appreciate the efforts he made in doing that. But as I've considered it, you know, over many years, I've been involved in considering motions, and I've grown to learn that the more you put in a motion, especially opinion and not fact, the more there is to disagree with. And I found the original motion loads to disagree with, but even with this one now, I think that I don't know, for example, if this proposal is value for money. And in the light of what Councillor Jackson's just said, there is more than one perspective about that. I don't know that this, I certainly don't know that this proposal shows a total lack of thought about the needs of the community. I know there are district councils here, and I wouldn't want to insult them in that. I'm sure the district council have been as concerned as the rest of us and aware about the impact of COVID on the local community. And I also don't know, although I suspect that more people will be working remotely. The motion says there will be. I'm not sure that people who work in council offices will be working more remotely more often. I think it's a complete unknown what's around the corner, and for a motion to predict what's around the corner, I think is dangerous. What I do know is that it does look odd to the public that council is making a decision when probably within the next week a decision will be taken about how we progress on the unitary authority. I know that we've heard that before, but I've certainly expect that decision will come out very soon. And what I suspect will happen, it'll be a long-term consultation, and then when the consultation's over and a decision's made, there'll be an implementation period, and this could take up to 2 more years, especially since COVID may also delay elections. So I totally agree with the point that Eden District Council have a responsibility right until they don't exist anymore to carry on as normal. And so I'm left really in a dilemma, because I can understand why people think it's strange, and maybe Eden District Council haven't communicated the need for this shift as well as they possibly could. But they do have to continue operational, and anyway, we'll know in a week. So this motion will make absolutely no difference whatsoever, partly because it's from us and we don't have a say in the decision-making process, partly because within a week it'll be an irrelevance anyway, because we'll know about the future, and then it'll be up to Eden District Council to justify their decisions, not for us to justify them or to question the decisions that are not really part currently of the brief of Penrith Town Council. So I'm left a bit puzzled because of the new information and new perspectives that I've heard within this debate. So that's where I am at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naggs. Councillor Charlie Shepherd.
Okay. I totally agree that we need to be ensure that there's a significant presence in Penrith after whatever changes are made to the local government arrangements. But it's highly unlikely that whatever happens, the requirement in Penrith will be less than it is now, even without taking into account remote working, which I'm sure is going to become even more part of the environmental issue, because it's unlikely that we're going to be driving electric cars in the next couple of years. Yes, the idea of having a very environmentally friendly building is great, and the new entity, whatever it's called or whatever it consists of, will need a new building. I just feel that this is the wrong time to be spending a lot of money. Okay, they've saved a lot of money on their capital fund. Good, let's spend it on something else more suitable. I don't think the fact that the capital grant's been saved, capital budget has been saved, means that it should be spent on this if we don't think this is if it's not the right place to spend it. There's plenty of places that in the area that need money, capital money. I feel that when we decided not to join this working group, certainly I was not of the view that it was going to end up with at such a level of expenditure and things. It seemed to be, did we want a spot in it? That was the original idea. Did we want our offices in there? And for a number of reasons, we decided we probably didn't want our offices in there. So I think that, and you talk about it's going to be only a few weeks before something's known, that's even more reason for not doing anything for them at time. So I'm still in favour of this motion. I understand that some of the wording may not be as polite or sensitive as it ought to be, but the principle behind it, I'm totally behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Mike Shepherd.
Yes, I agree with my namesake. You remember that I was the councillor who went along to the initial meeting of people who might want a spot in it. And I felt that it was going to be a real struggle for everyone to fit. But there was no indication to me then of huge amounts of money being spent and huge refurbishments. And I think this is the wrong time for that. I think the people of Penrith may well feel the same. We've heard from a couple of people on either side, but that's all it is a couple of people. And so I'm minded to support the motion. I did wonder, Councillor Jackson, how we can say it's going to be good value for money if we don't know how much it's going to cost.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Briefly, yes.
So taken side by side, without the initial cost, Vereda House is much cheaper running in terms of energy, work hours than Mansion House and Town Hall. I would hazard a statement that that's beyond question. It's the initial outlay that I think people have the most problem with. I've argued that the government grant, the sale of Mansion House, and the fact that I don't think it's costing anywhere near as much as people think. Again, we aren't privy to the pink papers. I'd argue that there isn't actually massive amounts of taxpayers, residents' taxpayers' money being spent. I would love it if Eden District Council would just make my argument simpler by saying what it is, but we don't come out and tell people what our negotiations with our landlords, etc., is or is going to be. So why would they? But I think that the statement, large amounts of taxpayers' money, is at best incorrect and at worst disingenuous when you take into account the grant and the sale of Mansion House. When it comes to running costs, Vereda House is going to run rings around Mansion House and the Town Hall.
Okay, thank you. Well, I do think at a time when the council tax is going to be put up again and people are really strapped for cash, it would be good of Eden Council to say how much they are going to spend on this. I don't want to prolong this too long, but I'm going to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Snell.
I don't want to go over old ground, but the question was asked, why now? Why have we decided to discuss this now? Well, this was because we had a planning meeting last week where the total refurbishment of Vereda House was talked about and discussed. And looking at the plans, the question was asked, you know, is this the appropriate time to be doing it? And part of us wanted to object to it on grounds that have come up in the motion. So that's the why. But also, I would like to say that I think it sounds to me as though the group that was set up for councillors to be involved in, we thought it was a very different thing. It was about whether we wanted space in Vereda House. And so I don't feel that we were encouraged to feel as though we had much to say in that group. Plus, I would also like to say that having been to Eden District Council planning meetings a couple of times when we have objected to certain plans, that I don't feel that the Penrith Town Council has a very strong role in those meetings. And so where is our voice? That's the question for me. We represent people who just live in Penrith. Eden District Council Planning Committee has some people who live in Penrith, but not all. And I know we're limited in the voice that we can have because of planning regulations, but that's all up for grabs. So I would like to say that we need to be involved in any group that is now looking at decisions around that. And perhaps it should be people from Penrith Town Council Planning Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Snell. Okay, before I hand back to Councillor Davis, just a couple of things from me. Obviously, like Councillor Clark, I'm in an awkward situation because I'm also an Eden District Councillor, so I'll try and steer clear of saying anything controversial. Just a couple of quick things. Firstly, we as a town council have targets that we're going to be setting and trying to meet in terms of greening of the town and our climate emergency declaration. So I suspect that probably Vereda House will have some impact on that one way or another. And the other thing that I'd like to say just in general about this process is that I would, I'm very pleased that the motion has come forward. I'm very pleased that we've had an open and frank and honest discussion this evening. I'm very pleased that it stayed very much kind of civil and friendly, and I think it's an important process. And I hope that the people of Penrith, especially with everything that's been going on social media over the last couple of weeks with regard to other councils, I hope they will view this process as having been amicable, sensible, democratic, and very transparent. I'm really pleased with the way it's gone, and I'll just hand back to Councillor Davis now, just to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of points to cover there, so if I don't cover, I do apologise. As to the why now, as Councillor Snell has highlighted, Eden Council are now moving to develop the building. They've got planning applications in which will be going to their planning, having been at the Town Council Planning Committee already, within the next week. There is also a budget meeting, which I believe Eden Council have taken tomorrow, which includes, as part of that budget setting, funding for the development of Vereda's house. So that's why it's why the urgency on this. I also believe as a Town Council, we're here to represent the people of, that we represent as a council and be a voice for them where we can. We did agree not to get involved previously in the discussions around office space, as it was put to us, looking basically for the Town Council to go in for the reason Councillor Snell has highlighted. I may not well put it the same, but basically Eden Council don't like the thought of Penrith Town Council playing in their sandpit. We don't get listened to quite often on issues, and that is why we've got to represent the people of Penrith with this motion. As Councillor Jackson has said, Vereda House may well be more eco-friendly. However, Eden Council have still got the two buildings they're currently in, and you can plant a forest and fly on a jumbo jet. It doesn't make it any greener. Eden Council have still got those two buildings to make into an eco-friendly way, where they're spending money on another building opposed to looking at the assets they currently hold as a council. So spending on a new building while still holding those two buildings as assets as well, they're still going to have the expenditure on those buildings, be it that they're using them for council office space, which I don't believe is the intention, or believe that they're just standing there. Now, I move this motion, as I have done, for members to vote on, in the hope that we can represent and be a voice for the people that we are elected here to represent.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Okay, so that concludes our discussions and questions, so we can move to a vote. So I will ask each of you in turn how you wish to vote. You can either say for, against, or abstain. Starting at the top with Councillor Bergin. How do you vote?
Against.
Against. Councillor Clark?
Unfortunately, I'll have to abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Davis?
For.
Councillor Donald?
Against.
Councillor Fallows?
Yeah, as worded, against.
Councillor Hawkins?
Against.
Councillor Jackson?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon?
Against.
Councillor Naggs?
Against.
Councillor C. Shepherd?
For.
Councillor M. Shepherd?
For.
Councillor Snell?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, thank you. So that's, just tot these up. 1, 2, there's 3 for, 2 abstentions, and 7 against.
I agree, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so that motion is defeated.
Thank you, members.
So thank you all for your time. Thank you for the discussion, and have a good evening.
Thank you, members.
Mr. Chair.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
officers.
I'm late. Bye. Thank you.